man, I forgot to turn the whole thing off so people can see past our overlay to see us. There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Bill and Carol, take two. Hi, and welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast pre-show on New Thought Media Network. I am Bill Marchiony. I'm in Philadelphia. That's Carol. She's down near the beach. And we are here on New Thought Media Network. We're going to chat for a little while about what we're going to talk about in the podcast episode, and then we will record an episode of the Practical Prayer Podcast, which will then go off to the UK for editing and then appear in podcast land in a week or so. Very exciting. 13th season we're in.
I love it.
Yeah.
I feel very, I don't know, something.
Old? No, that's
I
me.
I watch, I got Prime, and pretty much the only thing I watch is BritBox. And they have these seasons that could be 3 seasons, 5, 10, whatever. I just love it, and it kind of guides how much I watch and when I watch it, and it feels really, so now to know that I am in something that's measured by that, I'm feeling really like I'm on my way to Prime.
There you go. There's a season. Turn. Yeah.
Wow.
So we had some technical difficulties right before we went on the broadcast, so we haven't had a chance particularly to talk. So we sort of offhandedly say that when we're doing the pre-show here, it's an opportunity for the folks who are either watching us live on New Thought Media Network or watching the recording to kind of see how the program is made. But since we haven't done any preparation whatsoever, you really get this. This is the sausage maker in operation here as we discuss what we're going to discuss. And just, by the way, for the folks who are on New Thought Media Network watching us live now on your favorite form of social media, you can put a comment into the comments and we'll be able to see it and respond to it here. If you were watching the recording and you want to make a similar comment, since you can't do it into the social media, you can go to the website at bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, and there's a section for the Practical Prayer Podcast on there. It's actually all things practical prayer, but the section on the podcast has a talk to us button sort of thing, and you can communicate. So you can do that right there at the website. And I think that's all we need. That's all of our background stuff. Oh yeah, if the comment includes an observation, a suggestion, or a request for a prayer, we'd be happy to include that in an upcoming show. And you see how completely ironclad our grip is on what the content of an episode is going to be. So pretty easy to have your way with us. Talk about this. Okay.
Last week that was really like a pivot in a second.
Oh yeah, we changed the subject at the last second. So, and so what do you want to talk about today? Do you want to go back to the topic that we had last week, or you want to go differently?
I would love to go back to the topic last week, but I got to tell you this because it's been on my mind all week. The podcast before the last, or maybe before that, we talked about manifestation, and I said, don't take that word from us, and you said God is the one who manifests, and it just went in my head. And let me tell you something. I got to be careful what I talk to you about.
This is the second time that's happened. The first time was when you said that you were a card-carrying control freak, and that had to go away. So now you're noticing that your words is important.
Let me tell you, there's things that happen that I don't get to tell you about, because I only really talked to you like a few minutes before the podcast. But this one, I just thought, be careful what you talk to him about, because that subject about God being the manifester, that God is doing the manifesting. And I had one feeling about it, and I was very open about expressing it. And that thing stayed with me to the point of proof. Do you hear me? Proof. And I thought, am I ready for this? So I'm willing to talk about that.
Okay.
And it's included actually in the 5th step, the let go.
The releasing, the final
the releasing.
step. Yep.
So it kind of blends into that. What do you
Okay,
think?
that's part of it. I like that. And I've been thinking a lot about manifesting myself as well, and where I want to get on that particular train. Because on the one hand, I can claim that manifesting doesn't work, and it's not that it doesn't ever work. It's just that it sometimes doesn't work, and it really, I think, does people a disservice to just talk about manifesting or affirmations and not talk about what happens when it doesn't work.
I think I'd probably be interested in the doesn't work, but right now I've been bombarded or barraged with a work, a working.
Okay, it worked in
Yeah,
it.
so we'll
All
do
right.
both, right?
So this is going to be beyond manifesting,
Yeah, we're
or
like
watch
right
your
in the
words.
smack in the middle of it. I'll
All
start
right.
it with the what
So
your
I won't
words.
know what the title is until we do the episode. Well, now I'm intrigued. So we're going to have to go ahead and record the Practical Prayer podcast episode. So I will. Anything we need to cover before we start the episode?
No, I'm ready to go.
Okay. On your mark, get set.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
And you had an exciting time after we did the episode a couple of weeks ago about manifesting. That it started to some stuff started coming up for you.
I don't even know if the word exciting captures
So
it.
do tell.
Okay, so I had to figure out what was going on. You said that it's God who manifests. And if anybody was watching it, I kind of didn't bristle at it, but, that was just a new way for me it was new, the idea, because it's like co-creating, you think you're doing it and you think you do certain things and then this manifestation happens and blah, blah, blah. So, I'm always open. So when you say something that shakes me, I'll just say, okay, let me sit with this for a minute. But let me tell you this, I didn't have to sit with it. Manifestations barraged me. And I didn't know what they were because you look for one thing and a whole bunch of other stuff is happening in your world. And because I'll confess, I'm a writer, so I'm writing constantly, but I'm not a good journaler. So I'll put things out there and okay, so sometimes I forget that, I'll, when the the $1 billion shows up, I'll remember that one. But I put some things out there and I forget. So anyway, I'm having this barrage of things just happening. Not things, but they're coming in my head, and I'm thinking, when did this happen? Like, what is going on here? This is this what I asked for? It's not bad. It's just, you ever have like a barrage of different ideas and different things that put you in a different direction? And I'm thinking, I'm not sure I requested this. But then I thought about, God being the one manifesting, and I said, okay, so apparently I put some things out there, and since we're not supposed to deal with, what do you say, detach yourself from the outcome?
Yeah.
Certainly things may come back in a way that I don't recognize, which is what was happening. I put it out there and I'm expecting, this and maybe a little bit different, but not like you doing, not like it's coming here.
Was the stuff that was happening bad?
No, it's just things that made me think about things very differently, or things that I might not have been considering at the time. And I'm thinking, it's not throwing me off the track. It's like more. Here's more. Here's more. And then I'm thinking, well, what? No, whoa! I have to do this, this, and this. And then it's just stuff kept coming, and I said, that's what he meant about God manifesting. I said, well, I gotta watch what I tell you because I wasn't prepared for the barrage of ideas and intuitions, which I'm an intuitive. So I'm used to it. But a barrage of them like this has been coming the last couple of weeks. I said, I'm not talking to this guy about anything.
Well, there are a couple of different ways that you can engage with that, and obviously one of them is to stop talking to me because it's one of the triggers that makes this happen. I think there are probably some other ways to do that as well. And the thing that's worth looking at is that when we have an idea and we're kind of in the groove of what's going on in our life, and then we say we're going to open up to a new possibility, and suddenly, not just a new possibility, but a new possibility, and then another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and they're all really exciting. Either we can get the message that new possibilities are surrounding us, and it's part of our living in an infinitely abundant universe, and we can pick and choose the ones that we want. And it's also possible that there's some stuff that we've been filling our time with up until now that we can let go of because we've got something different that we're going to do. Tarzan is swinging through the jungle, and in order to get to the next vine, he needs to let go of the one that he was on. Otherwise, there's no progress.
Absolutely. And it's like, here's more information that will help you. Do you know what I mean? It's just, here's more that'll help you. And I'm thinking, I fired Pinterest about a week ago because I didn't understand it. I understand a lot of other platforms, but that one I just wasn't getting. And so I fired him. I'm tired of getting these emails showing up every day, and then I'm getting 2 or 3. So I just blasted them out. I did some research on something I was doing, and it said that Pinterest is your best friend. So I thought, all right, let me go back to the God of Pinterest and repent. So I had to go back and
repent.
Yeah, I got to repent at Pinterest. And I thought it was funny and amazing at the same time because Pinterest has been around, my awareness forever, and I just ignore it. And then, bang, and I got on a couple of videos to see if I was hearing it right. You're getting it right, girl. Go back and fix it. And I did. And I just laughed at that. I said, now, you see, there goes that manifesting stuff. Like, I was not expecting this. I wanted a result, but not the way it was coming. So, of course, I thought of you, and I said, I'm not telling him nothing else like this.
It's an infinite intelligence. It is so, and that means it's so much bigger than us, that when we say, well, I'm part of this infinite intelligence, and I'm going to do this, and it turns out that this isn't really going to be long-term in our best interest, the news will make its way to us. And in this case, it wasn't catastrophic. It was you firing Pinterest and then having to rehire Pinterest. But it was all the energy that you had about, I don't need this anymore, this isn't working for me. Who I am is this. And then it turns out that the universe is saying, who you are is this, and a little of this too.
It was just complete. But now how does this relate? Remember I said step 5? Like letting go of the so it is, right? I always love that part. Just because to me it's just so real, right? I'll let it go and I'll say, all right, God, you got this. Spirit, do whatever you do, and let me know. You know where to find me, and I'm good with it. But I'm not sure how much letting go, or maybe I let go, and then when it shows up, I'm like, what just happened? How does this fit into the picture? And I know it does. I know it does because it wouldn't come my way if it didn't. It's just, and it's kind of funny, but it stops me in the moment. But again, I need to go back and say it's about that manifestation thing. I sometimes, maybe all the time, I don't know, have a vision of what the manifestation is supposed to look like, but I don't see all the twists and turns that
Yeah.
that may manifest on the way to it. So, it's a lot. It's fun lot, but I just couldn't wait to bring that to everybody because it's always more than you think.
I'm going to take this back to an agricultural metaphor, which we love doing because the creative process that creates everything in the universe is replicated in the plant life cycle. So we talk about that creative law, that creative medium, this divine spirit that creates everything. That's like the soil. And then there is a seed that gets planted in the soil. And that seed is planted by the infinite, and the soil begins to grow it, and then a crop comes forward. And the process that we get to engage with is that we start in the first step of a practical prayer by identifying that there is that one infinite creative power that's creating everything. And in the second step, we use our intellect to remind ourselves that since it created everything, it created us. And since there's only that creative process that continues to repeat and unfold and do its thing, that's the same creative process that we're using. We have access to that creative power. And then we plant a seed. And we plant the seed into that creative soil, that same creative soil that we share with all of creation, with everything. And then it shows up in our life. And as part of the planting process, what we're going to do is we're going to plant the seed. We're going to be grateful in advance for the awareness of the process and for whatever is blossoming, whatever is coming up. And then we're going to let it go. And the letting go would be the same as planting the seed and then walking away. You do not need to supervise the garden or the farm and to organize how the germination and sprouting is going, because that ruins things. The interesting thing is, and this is something that people who are listening on the podcast won't be able to see, but I have left over from the talk I did this week, a seed. Okay? That's a real live seed. So, Carol, if I were to plant that seed, what do you suppose would come up?
Whatever the seed is for.
Well, you guess. You tell me what you want to grow, and I'll tell you whether you're going to get your wish or not. Because it looks a little like a pumpkin seed. But if you wanted to grow pumpkins,
seed.
if you wanted to grow pumpkins, that would be not the right seed to plant. And if you were looking to grow zucchini, then that would be a good choice. But sometimes we reach for the seed that we think is going to grow the pumpkin, and it turns out we're planting a zucchini. There's nothing wrong with the process. It's just that we don't have all of the details, all of the information, all of the nuance available to us now. You know when you know that it's a zucchini? When the zucchini sprouts. Yeah, when you get a garden full of zucchini, it's like, oh, that wasn't a pumpkin. And that's part of the feedback cycle. That's the loop where we get to say, next time I want to have pumpkins, so let me go find a viable pumpkin seed so I can plant that. And then I will prepare the ground exactly the same way, maybe a little more space because they need more room. And when I go through the process again, it is now informed by what I did previously. Is the zucchini something bad? It's not what I expected. But it's not bad. It's just different. And so when what manifests for you is not what you had in mind, or you start thinking about manifesting, and then suddenly there's a lot of zucchini. There's and look at this huge variety that I've got. This is more than I can handle. I've seen that happen in people's gardens. They planted way too many zucchini. They're trying to give it away to every neighbor, let me go to my kid's school and give them some zucchini because I got way too much.
Yeah. Okay, so you plant okay, then here's the thing. I planted some zucchini, I suppose. I don't, after your story, I'm not even sure now what I did.
You planted
But
something. You grabbed your seed.
I grabbed my seed and I started, I absolutely know that I used to say I know what the answer and what it's going to be, but I'm starting to see other possibilities as to what might grow out of that. And so now, is it normal? This is not doubt because I didn't have to go back to any of the steps, but I thought for a minute, ooh, I'm not sure if that's exactly what I really wanted to happen, or I'm not sure which way I want it to happen. That's it. I know what I want to happen, and I had one, this is like I got to do it this way. But now I'm seeing that, ooh, there might be another possibility. And so I'm sort of frozen. But in your example, you don't get to freeze, because the seed is planted and stuff is moving.
Oh, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Something is definitely going to happen. That is why it is so much better when we're doing a prayer, when we're engaging with this infinite creative power that creates galaxies. I mean, this is not limited to, what's showing up on my Amazon delivery. This is health, wealth, love, work, spirituality, all of it. And it's always working. And instead of saying, this is what I want to have, which we can do, it works. That's the classic manifesting, and we can manifest whatever it is that we're intending up to a degree. But what's even better to do is to understand, once I have that, this is how I'm going to feel. So now what I want to get is that feeling of success, of completion, of love, of harmony, of health and vitality, of creativity, whatever it is. That's the feeling I want to have. And that way we're not trying to outline for the universe what it's going to take to get us there. Because if I decide that I want to be healthy and vital, and I think that involves swimming laps 3 times a week, and then doing yoga every couple of days, and it turns out that I get to be friends with somebody who absolutely loves road cycling, and our schedules are completely compatible, and the season starts, and I don't wind up doing any of the things that I was going to do, but now I've got companionship, and I've got great exercise, and I'm feeling really fit without doing any of the things that I thought I was going to. And that's okay, because I'm feeling exactly the way I wanted to feel, and even better.
Yeah. Well, then that brings up the big F word, faith.
Faith. Ah,
Yes.
that
Faith.
that F word.
That one. That one. How do you catch that? But yeah, it's faith, and I just had some chuckle moments. Even today, I broke routine and did something else. And it was a good thing, got a lot of information and downloads just kept coming. And I'm thinking, whew, I'm going to have to operate on faith on this one because it's too much for me to think about. Oh, that sounds so corny. But,
Well,
yeah.
but that's it. When we can have the faith and let go of the details, and open ourselves to whatever that feeling is, then what shows up can be so much more spectacular than what we had planned.
Yeah. But here you go too. And this is for everybody who's listening. I know I'm like talking about me a little bit, but when you think about it, could be so much more spectacular. That's a wow moment, because I thought about that when I said it could show up differently. It could show up way better than I expected. And I'm thinking, oh, oh, I hadn't anticipated that it might even be better than I expected.
Yeah. My friend Reverend George Harris has a saying, let go of the how and get ready for the wow.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and that's better than the one that I heard. Like you deal with the what, and spirit or the universe deals with the how. But the wow didn't particularly anticipate or think or envision a wow. Just
Yep. Let's take a break and continue with our discussion of watching our words and seeing what comes up. Are you ready to get results? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. Are you ready to get results? RUR2GR. That's actually the abbreviation for the steps in a practical prayer: recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release, with a couple of extra steps in there in case some doubt creeps in along the way. RUR2GR. This class is about the prayer technique that's common to all of the spiritual practices and religions in the most effective prayers that they have. And by effective, I mean that the prayer works. It actually creates a change in the experience of the person doing the prayer. It gets a result. We're going to begin with theory, and then we're going to take it into practice. By the end of the class, you will have your very own practical prayer that will help create transformation in your life.
welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
We're talking about the words that we're using and the experiences that we are co-creating with the infinite, and how sometimes what we get is so much bigger than what we had in mind. So you were talking about how you really got to watch what you talk to me about.
Well, that and what I really, I thought, okay, I'm serious about that though. I did say that. I said, but if you're going to really continue to talk to him, you're going to have to adjust your scope of expectation, because it could be anything. It could be, and I think that's probably, unfortunately, I have to confess, that might be like the residuals of the control freak, because I'm willing to turn it over, but I'm not sure that I had in mind. I had big in mind, but but God is bigger. The whole process is bigger, and it could turn out, it could produce something quite more than I expected, or different. You know, I don't know. I think you don't define the wow, and I don't know what picture I'm painting here. I'm trying to say that it could go anywhere, and I was not thinking about that. And I wasn't thinking, I wasn't.
I absolutely hear you. And I don't know if I've told you this story before. I got sent for a root canal, which of course is not a happy story for anybody. But and I made the appointment. And the practice, there are several endodontists in the practice. And one of them is named Dr. Hurt. And I'm sure he's a great endodontist. I'm sure he would do a fabulous job. And I also understand that I am a metaphysician, and I believe that your word creates your experience. And for that reason, I personally am not going to go to Dr. Hurt for a root canal.
Right there with you.
Just me. Okay, and other people, that's not part of their awareness. It doesn't mean that to them, and that's fine, because it's different in their belief system. So it's not about being right or wrong. It's about understanding who we are and where we're starting from, so that when we open up to that newness, we're ready for whatever's showing up.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I mean, for a moment I thought, can you not be ready? But if you're handling your prayer life in I want to say in a mature, organized way, as much as possible, you got to leave room for being ready.
Yeah.
For something different, and yeah, I think more than the outcome, the possible outcome of what I'm thinking about, I am just overwhelmed with being excited in learning or discovering that which I did not know.
Hmm.
I'm not sure that it's changing anything, yeah, a little bit, but it's just that when you know more, it's like you do better when you know more. You do different.
Yeah. And it could be about knowing stuff out there, and it could be about knowing stuff about ourselves. So and I had this reaction. It was a week or so between the time that I got the appointment and the time that I went in for the root canal. And I told a bunch of people, kind of were chuckling about it. And then I went in for the appointment, and the very capable, very gentle endodontist who did the procedure for me also explained everything in minute detail. So this is what happens, and it's going through a porcelain crown. She says, one time out of 100, the crown will crack and it'll need to be replaced. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm in the 99. That's easy. And then she said, when it gets to this part, there's a possibility of pain or infection, and that's maybe 20%. And I said, okay, I'm in the 80%. And I know enough about myself that if I had gone in with the belief that it's going to hurt, then I would have been the one. I would have been the one to let those other 99 people skate free with their porcelain crown. So, and as it turned out, because I knew who I was and what I was bringing to that, by a day later, I hardly even knew that I'd had it done. There was no pain, there was no complications. It was very smooth, and my regular dentist office saying, "Hey, you need to come in for a follow-up." So it can be that easy. But if we say, "Oh, there's the thing, I don't believe that," and we're pushing against it, well, then that's what we're putting our energy into, and that's what we're going to get a response to. So when you open yourself up to, as you're doing, as you open yourself up to something new, and lots of stuff that's new comes in, it's like, well, okay, that was your answer.
Yeah, that's it. Um, I like the part where you talked about you know yourself and your expectations. And when I'm going into something, it's medical or whatever, I don't worry about a whole lot of possibilities and all of this stuff. Some people read every horrible thing that could happen. I'm thinking, listen, this is not happening. I'm just going to get this and I'll be finished with it. And I'm going on. I mean, I'm going out of here like everybody else one day. But, I mean, I'm not going to spend the whole time worrying about everything terrible that could possibly happen and to happen to everybody that, other people knew. Come on, I'm trying to live here. I'm
Yeah.
trying to, yeah.
Here,
I'm trying to flow without
mhm.
fear, you know.
Here lies Bill, who died at 107 and nothing much. It's still a gravestone.
Yeah, yeah. But again, the God being the manifester, is that the way I should say it? The way you were explaining it?
It gets back into co-creation because the infinite creates everything and can create anything and is going to create something. And we are free to have an idea, set an intention about what we want that to look like or feel like, especially what we want it to feel like. In which case, it's that same infinite creative process that's doing the manifesting, but we are cooperating with it. We're saying, it's where we can drive anywhere. Let's drive over in that direction. We can have anything. Let's have apples. And it is such an infinitely grand power that it doesn't care. If there's a choice of oranges and apples and bananas, and we want apples, the infinite is still going to have all the oranges and all the bananas. Pair us up with the apples. That's fine. It doesn't matter. So we are co-creating. It is the infinite that's doing the actual creating, but we're partnering with it.
Exactly. And I was explaining that idea of co-creation not long ago in corporate terms or in business terms. And what each person knows what they bring to the table, it's agreement, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? In this scenario with God being your partner, you really can't size up what the other partner is bringing. You can't do it because it's too much. So the possibilities, and I hear you use this term a lot, infinite possibilities. I'm good with knowing, I'm imagining several possibilities, trying to get rid of the the freak thing, but it's probably some residuals there. Out of these 10 possibilities, any one of these 10 would be great. I can see those happening. But then what about these 5 over here that that I didn't think? Woo! And it's a good thing, but it's sobering in terms of just stand still and just imagine it being bigger than you thought. And I think that's part of recognizing the infinite power of God, of spirit, that it's more than you thought all the time. Yeah. So I'm again working with that. I think I got it now. That God is the manifester. I'm thinking, okay, listen, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do at this point. I'm going to take in all of this that you just let come, you downloaded. I'm going to take into consideration all of this. And in fact, I'm doing nothing because it's going to take me a while to wade through all of this. And I can't even imagine what you're doing on your part.
Yeah.
So,
well, harvest season comes along, and you get to pick and harvest and keep and use what's come up for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
It,
Let's take another break and have and do a little prayer about co-creating and manifesting something spectacular.
great.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcall.org.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony. And I just want to comment on your commercial, sort of. You said magic
Okay.
is loose.
Magic is loose in the world. Yeah.
You know what? That is so deep because it could just happen. It's just not like magic is loose in the world. It's like, some magic could happen here.
Yeah.
It's like part of your atmosphere, your belief system. That's huge. Talk about that some other time. But it was really nice. When I heard that, I thought, ooh, okay.
Yeah. The science fiction novelist Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey, among other things, and also invented the communication satellite. That was the same guy. He once famously said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So the stuff, and the reason I say magic is loose in the world is there is stuff that we do not understand how it works, but it still works. Mm-hmm. And there are things that we take for granted that people even 25, 30 years ago would have thought, wow, how could that possibly ever happen? Yeah. What do you mean everybody is carrying around a little device in their pocket that lets you do video calls from anywhere on the planet? What's up with that? Mm-hmm. But here it is. So yeah, magic is loose in the world. And that's kind of what the prayer is going to be about today. And we've been talking about manifesting, and that it is God that is manifesting. And as Jesus said, it is not I, but the Father within who doeth the work. And it's the same thing, that we are not doing the manifesting. It is that divine power and presence, that the Father within, that doeth the work. And we are co-creating Because when Jesus said, Lazarus, rise, or did any of the other healings that he did, he was the one who was saying what was going to happen. But he was very clear that it was the Father within that was doing it. And that's the same thing that we're saying. When we talk about manifesting, it's not that we're going to make something happen. And it's not even that by saying these affirmations that we are going to create something in the world. When we open ourselves up to a new belief, to the idea that this good that we are seeking is possible, that allows the power within, that divine presence, to create something new. And the cool thing is, it works with everything. So this prayer will be for whatever anybody who is listening wants to have manifest in his or her life. So we turn away from the specifics in the world around us. That's looking at the world in the rearview mirror. That's telling us what we've already been doing, what we've already experienced. And when we are opening to something new, we turn away from that because it's informative. Being able to look in the rearview mirror tells us the road that we've been on, so we know how we got here. But that's not the important part. What we can do is turn away from that so we can open up to the awareness of the infinite range of possibilities in front of us. We don't have to stay on the same road that we've been on. We can take a turn. We can go up. We can go down. We can circle around. We are free to do anything. We are free to choose a new direction and go in that direction and bring about a new experience in life. And we're not doing it ourselves. As we open ourselves to a new destination, to the feeling of having arrived, to coming home to this new experience, that infinite creative power that creates everything is already responding to us. That divine presence that abides within, that creative power, starts creating that newness. So whether it's about our health and vitality and the comfort that we have in our physical bodies, whether it's about our prosperity and the experience of enoughness that we have in our financial affairs and in any area of our life, if it's about our relationships, our love of ourselves, of our romantic partner, of our children, of our family members, of our community, of our co-workers. It's about the creativity, the way that we're sharing ourselves, the way that we get to express our uniqueness into the world and share those gifts and experience the benefit of bringing that goodness into the world. Whatever area it is, it's the same process. And the infinite creative power that creates everything is creating that newness for us and through us and as us. We are co-creating. It is the divine. It is that infinite creative power that's doing the manifesting. And we are setting the intention, opening the invitation for how we want that to feel, how we want that to look, what that wow is as it unfolds. And I know that each one within the sound of my voice is doing that right now. Opening to that newness, letting go of what's no longer serving, and inviting in that new experience, that new feeling, whatever it is that we're describing as good. And knowing this is already unfolding, there's nothing to feel but gratitude. I'm so, so thankful for the wonderful way this is unfolding. I'm grateful for the goodness that's showing up for each of us in our own way. And I'm grateful for the way that this experience is serving to remind us of good and more good that's always available. A reminder that the process is always working. And so with a deep feeling of thanks, I speak this word and I release it into that creative law, the one that creates everything. And I know it now is creating this. And so I let it be. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
And that is episode number 146 of the Practical Prayer Podcast.
Wow. And we're in season, what, 13?
Season 13, Lucky 13, that's us.
Okay. So now I feel like I'm high ranking.
Yeah.
13 seasons.
And and the infinite has put lots of logs into your, not into your fireplace, but into your woodpile, which you get to go through.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's fun if you
Yeah.
allow it to be such.
Well, and my imagination about it is that none of them are bad. None of them are things that you would say, I don't want to do that. They're instead things, oh, I want to do that, and that, and that, and that, and how do I get to do them all?
Yeah, well, I try to put a grip on myself this year. I'm trying to do because there's always new stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to put a grip on it and say, now listen, you can do these things, but just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
So pick which you would like to do so there can be some peace and rest and, I could have a little fun too. So, but also learning what it is required to do certain things. Um, that's a big thing for me too. Like I love to learn, and I'm like, oh wow. Like I mentioned, with Pinterest, and I fired him. Then I found
Mm-hmm.
out some information, and I thought, and it was like a deep breath when I really found out. Oh my goodness, this is different, and it's a different way to do what I want to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
was really welcoming that because some things were wearing me out. I was having like I
Uh,
told you I got Facebook fired me a month ago, and then they
oh, yeah,
came back.
give you some
Yeah,
time off for bad behavior.
and I wasn't even. Listen, I was good, man, but
You were fine. It wasn't you.
but it came back. They came back to get me, which was interesting too. They come back to get me, and I thought, I'm not coming back here 100%. This is a wake up call to me. There's some other stuff out here, although I didn't know what. And
Yep.
now I'm looking. There's other ways of doing things a whole lot, you know, more interesting, let's say. Or everybody's good, like not bad mouthing anybody. But when I found different ways to do things, there's always other ways, and that's exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you have to think a different way. And I can kick it all to the curb and just go the way I was. But hey, listen, how about this? Might be better.
Might be better. We had a new couple show up at our in-person Sunday a couple weeks ago. And I said, how did you find us? And she says, well, I've been meditating for a long time, and I took this online quiz to tell me what sort of what kind of spirituality I am. What church would be a good one for me. And it said New Thought.
Wow.
And so she said she Googled New Thought, and it turns out that we were meeting the next day right next to her house.
Oh,
I love when that happens.
You know what we would say on the other side of the street? We'd say, look at God.
Look at God doing that.
Look at God. That's so. But there are so many. You can't pigeonhole anything in New Thought, or even in the world of spirituality. It's just, that's the joy of it. If you can be happy with flowing and not have to have things be a certain way, this is good. Like New Thought is good because you get to see God move in so many different ways. And I'm just not good for being pigeonholed, so it works for me. If you got to have one way to do things, stay over there because this is going to shake you up. But let me use the word challenge. It's gonna challenge you. But if you have no limitations, you use the term infinite creative power.
Mm-hmm.
That means there are no limits.
Right?
Can you imagine living life with the perception of no limits? That's crazy. Like you'll do great things that you didn't even think of.
Yep.
Yeah. Somebody told me one time, well, people do bad things. You're a jerk, right? If that's what you want to do, deal with it. I think you're even a jerk for thinking about that. There's so much goodness good possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
Think about that negative stuff.
Okay, well, we get to think about that. We'll probably make an episode about that. Because people come along doing things that are really, really bad, that get described by the rest of society as really, really bad, and they wind up getting stopped. Somebody or something is going to come along and put a stop to it because it's not good for the rest of everybody. And even when they come along doing something really, really good, yes, Easter is coming up, they get stopped because it's too far outside of the norm and the mainstream. Who are you to call yourself the Son of God? Let's put a stop to that. How could you be? Well, that's, there's a whole story there.
But you look through a bigger lens and see what is God saying through this experience that isn't even a good one, a good experience, or as you say, we've defined it as such. What is God saying through this? And you can't control the outcome of everything.
Right.
So then there's that faith word again, you just say, listen, well, let's just go with that. And that's not a cop-out, right? It's not a cop-out.
No, maybe this is something that is so spectacular and so wonderful that I could never have conceived of it happening. And now that it's happening, who am I as it's happening near me? Rather than, find it, kill it, eat it. The reptilian response.
Yeah.
All right. Let us bring this episode to a close. You've been watching the Practical Prayer Podcast post-show on New Thought Media Network. We do this every Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and I know that the network counts in Mountain Time, but since we're both in Eastern Time, we don't count, or something. So we are delighted to have you here. If you would like to get a hold of us, if you're on the social media, you can get your last comment in now. Or if you're watching the recording, you can go to bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, and find the Talk About the Podcast button and use that to click through and talk about the podcast with us. Carol, thank you as always. A wonderful, wonderful conversation we get to have. And by all means, let's do it again next Monday, which is April Fool's Day.
Is it?
It is. Something fun.
Okay.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.